Good evening. Welcome to the show. You are watching Kim Iverson. President Joe Biden set a goal of giving 70% of Americans at least one dose of the vaccine by July 4th. The idea is if enough Americans are vaccinated, we can reach herd immunity and stop the virus from spreading. However, Biden fell short at 67%, having received at least one dose. And with vaccination drives stalling out, the administration is blaming it on vaccine hesitancy, claiming Americans are being fed a steady diet of anti-science misinformation on social media and Fox News, that people like Tucker Carlson and platforms like Facebook are literally killing people. Now, various members of the administration have come out calling for an increased crackdown on what they consider misinformation, including censoring posts, deplatforming people, and there have even been rumors of censoring text messages that go against the current CDC guidelines. Now, liberal media and users of social platforms place the blame on the unvaccinated for the continued spread of the virus, accusing them of believing in conspiracy theories and of being dumb, uneducated right-wing Trumpers. Essentially, rather than addressing the concerns of people who are currently refusing the vaccine and engaging in meaningful dialogue, liberals have taken to tactics of belittling, insulting, threatening, and silencing. So who are these anti-vaxxers anyway? Are they really just a bunch of Tucker Carlson watching conspiracy driveling, Trump supporting science deniers? Well, according to the CDC, 80% of all Americans over 65 have taken the vaccine. And we know that a majority of older Americans are actually Republican. So clearly, a lot of Republicans have received the vaccine. Furthermore, the group keeping Joe Biden from hitting his 70% fully vaccinated goal are 18 to 29-year-olds. Only 38% of adults in this age group have been vaccinated. According to polls, nearly 70% of adults in this age group vote Democrat. So this means there are possibly a lot of young vaccine hesitant liberals refusing the jab. Are the vaccine hesitant more likely Republican? Sure. According to YouGov, 29% of Republicans never will consider getting the vaccines. However, 23% of the politically independent won't either. We hear in the news of vaccine hesitancy being mostly red states, implying that it's simply partisan politics causing the hesitation. But are they forgetting that Democrats and independents live in these areas as well? Truth is, young, healthy adults across the political spectrum are choosing to forego vaccination. Are young, staunch Democrats more likely to take it? Sure. But turning this into a purely political fight is inaccurate and fruitless. Belittling people, calling them names, attacking their politics, or full-on shutting down dissent is not the way to convince people to take a newly developed medication. These people have legitimate questions and concerns that are not being addressed. And instead of having that much-needed, transparent discourse, people are being shamed and in some cases even threatened into taking the vaccine. It's as if Democrats have learned nothing from the past mistakes of their own party and even of the mistakes of conservatives. Americans can't be forced, coerced, or bullied into a lifestyle, political party, or way of thinking. This sort of tactic has always led to swift backlash and often has the opposite effect. Telling people they are evil, against God, stupid, racist, bigoted, or deplorable has never worked in persuading them to do what the name caller wants. Divisive language is just that. Divisive. Silencing dissent and censoring information is also an authoritarian tactic used by people who would rather try to ignore the feelings of their fellow Americans than engage with them. We've seen silencing and censoring used against people who live alternative lifestyles, people who questioned God's existence, people who've called out war, and now people who aren't keen to swiftly trust big pharma and are bought off government. Attacking these people causes them to revolt and oftentimes causes them to switch sides politically or, in the least, disassociate. These various attempts at coercion could be extremely dangerous for a Democratic Party that prides itself on letting people live and let live. For the pro-choice party to demonize and even threaten people who are making a choice about their bodies, this could lead to an exodus of these young voters from the party. If the majority of young people tend to lean left, and it's these same young people who are vaccine hesitant, do you think the left demonizing them, using threats of limiting their freedoms and censoring information is going to keep them leaning left? Well, Kim, if not through forced bullying, and how do we end the pandemic if all of these young people refuse to be vaccinated, you ask? Well, first acknowledge that it's still unclear if the vaccines will end the pandemic. Numerous health officials and even the vaccine makers themselves had said the vaccines will likely be an annual shot like the flu shot. We actually still don't know if they stop the spread, and it's okay to admit that. We are seeing numerous highly vaccinated nations, including Israel, with spread, hospitalizations, and even deaths amongst the fully vaccinated. Young people read the news. They see these headlines, and it makes them less likely to believe that they are the reason the pandemic isn't ending. The information that is circulated regarding the virus itself, vaccines, and even its origin has been all over the place. One minute we're told it definitely didn't come from a lab, and anyone who suggests it is a conspiracy theorist, and then the next we're told by the Biden administration itself that, well, maybe it did. Another minute we're told the only side effect will be rare allergic reactions to the ingredients, otherwise it's perfectly safe, to news reports of some vaccines being put on hold and others causing new, unknown before serious side effects. From no masks to 2 weeks to stop the spread to we're not trying to get rid of the virus, we're just trying to not overwhelm hospitals. The messaging has been inconsistent and at times completely conflicting. So of course, younger adults who consume massive amounts of information and are increasingly aware, thanks to people like Bernie Sanders, of our bought off by big pharma government, they're feeling unsure about lining up for something that is making those same big pharma companies billions. It's best to acknowledge this hesitation and come up with a plan B that includes other prophylactics and treatments in the event of serious, and I should mention, rare for this age group, illness. There are other ways to limit hospitalizations and deaths other than through vaccines. We don't have a vaccine for most illnesses. We have treatments that help limit the severity. Luckily for this age group, in regards to COVID, they will rarely need it. If we truly are trying to not overwhelm hospitals and limit deaths, it's better to spend time trying to convince the remaining 20% of people 65 and older to get vaccinated and donate our remaining vaccines to poorer nations who haven't been able to vaccinate their most vulnerable. Now, I have to bring up one last yet significant point. Americans are freedom-loving. We have been born and bred to cherish the fact that we live in a free country where individualism is embraced and personal choices are respected. At least they're supposed to be. We're supposed to be free of government control and coercion. We're supposed to be a nation that wouldn't dream of censorship or silencing people who question the official narratives. For the government to call on private companies to do their dirty work and silence those who go against them, all in the name of helping humanity and saving lives, is, in my view, a complete infringement on the First Amendment. Authoritarian governments never tell their citizens the reason they are limiting their freedoms is that they are evil, sinister governments. No, they tell their citizens they're doing it for their own good, for public safety, and for national security. Americans have waged literal wars over this type of population control, claiming the need to save people from their own dictatorial governments. Yet now, here we are. People are not only okay with the government attempting to silence dissent and coerce people into doing something with their bodies they don't want to do, people are actually demanding it and cheering it on. Now, this is not going to lead us anywhere good. It never has, and it never will.